Here's a solution for day 2, problem 1. Question A, identify the slope and the y-intercept for the graph of this equation. Question B, graph the equation. So here we have a linear equation. We have the letter y alone. To the right of the equals is the x term. With no number written in front of x, we can assume that it means 1x. And then after that is the constant minus 3. Because of the form that this is written in, it's very easy to find the slope and the y-intercept. The slope when an equation is in this form is the coefficient of x, which is 1. Now, because later we're going to have to use slope in its version as rate of change, we want to think of that 1 as 1 over 1, because we're going to end up using the numerator of that as the change in y values. From math class, a symbol to represent change is just to draw this triangle symbol. And we're going to use the denominator as the change in x values. Now we're also asked for the y-intercept. Where does the line cross through the y-axis? And again, because of the form that this is in, that will turn out to be the constant term, which is this minus 3 or negative 3. Okay, in part B, we can graph a line from this information. So start with the y-intercept. We're told that on the y-axis there is a dot at negative 3. That is right here. And the slope is 1, thinking of that as a rate, 1 over 1. Interpreting that rate, change in y compared to change in x. So start with that first dot that we've already located. Change y by 1 unit. That means move up 1. And then change x by 1 unit. That means move to the right 1. Here's another dot. And so the line is coming up here through each corner of the little grid squares at a 45-degree angle on the paper. Now, day 2, problem 2. The table shows how much grain is stored in a farm's silo. Assume the relationship between the quantities is linear. The reason that phrase is on there all the time is that that tells us that even though we have just a small piece of information, that if the table was to continue with additional rows, that they would have the same pattern of change from row to row, that it's not going to change later on. Find and interpret the rate of change and the initial value. So rate of change, how is it changing? How is the amount of grain changing as time is going by? So from this row to this row, 1 month goes by. In that 1 month, it's decreasing 50 tons. And so writing that as a rate, we can say that it's negative 50 tons per month. Knowing that's the rate of change, we can work backwards to figure out how much grain was in the silo at the beginning when x is 0. The first row, we have information when x is 4, so we need to work backwards from the 4th month. So for the initial value, in the 4th month, there are 300 tons of grain. In the past, there was more grain, so we're going to add on 4 months worth of the 50 tons per month. 4 times 50 is 200, and 300 plus 200 is 500 tons. Don't forget the unit here, and don't forget the units that you need up there on the rate.